All right, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely incredibly excited to have you here today because we are going to talk about what 15 straight years of continuous, high-stakes franchise storytelling actually looks like. You know, for a casual viewer, the rapid-fire action of a cinematic trailer is usually just this big, loud blur of explosions and dramatic music. But for those of us who truly love cinema, the ones who obsess over the framing, the specific lighting choices, and those incredibly subtle character placements, well, we know that these tiny, easily missed details hold the keys to the entire franchise. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how one single microscopic frame of footage maps out a generational narrative extending all the way out to the year 2042. Let me explain this. We are going to carefully, meticulously piece together the visual clues, the deep comic book lore, and the hidden executive master plans to reveal this massive, beautiful, and profoundly tragic cinematic event that is quietly being orchestrated right in front of our eyes.
So, we must start our deep dive by analyzing a very specific, frantic moment from the recent visual reveals. I want you to really picture this scene in your head. Johnny Storm is utterly battered. His suit is scuffed, it's torn, and he is desperately shielding this helpless figure as a literal apocalyptic wall of fire approaches them. I mean, it's a scene of sheer terror. The lighting is incredibly harsh, painting this encroaching doom in these vivid, terrifying oranges and reds. Now, the human brain automatically kind of fills in the blanks, right? Most viewers just naturally assume the person he's hugging is his sister, Sue Storm. But when we slow down and really truly analyze the visual evidence, the physical discrepancies become entirely impossible to ignore. First off, look at the height. The height difference between Johnny and the figure he is protecting is entirely wrong for an adult woman like Sue. Furthermore, if you look really closely at the hair blowing in that intense heat, we see distinct, small, blonde curls. Actually, scratch that assumption about Sue completely. This isn't an adult woman Johnny is protecting from the flames. This is someone much, much younger. And discovering their true identity unlocks the plot of the entire upcoming saga.
Okay, let's dive into this. The profile of the person Johnny is desperately clutching perfectly matches his 5-year-old nephew, Franklin Richards. Discovering this detail completely recontextualizes what we are actually looking at. This isn't just some opening action sequence to get the blood pumping. This isn't a minor skirmish in the second act. No, this is the absolute climax of the film. This is that harrowing moment when the multiversal countdown finally hits 0. Imagine the pure, unfiltered cinematic horror of this scene. Johnny Storm is trapped in the void, holding a terrified 5-year-old child who, by the way, happens to possess unimaginable cosmic power, as reality itself fundamentally collapses around them. The universe is literally dying, and a bruised, desperate uncle is just trying to shield a little boy from the end of everything.
To truly grasp the gravity of this sequence, we have to deeply understand the terrifying cosmic stakes of the environment they're currently standing in. They're being swallowed into an incursion. Now, an incursion is this catastrophic space where multiple universes are actively colliding and completely destroying one another. Visually, imagine skies bleeding into one another, gravity just totally failing, and entire galaxies shattering like pieces of glass. And from the ashes of this ultimate destruction, a new, horrifying reality is forged: Battleworld, a patchwork planet constructed from shattered fragments of destroyed realities. We are witnessing the main 616 universe and even hidden underwater kingdoms like Talokan being violently ripped from their foundations. Their fragments are being dumped into a terrifying void, just stitched together to form this new planet. This is the literal death of the universe as we know it, playing out in real time on the biggest screen possible.
So how in the world do the greatest heroes in existence end up completely outmaneuvered and trapped in a dying reality? Well, it all comes down to a meticulously crafted deception that I call the Doom Protocol. This is where the psychological terror of this story truly sets in. You see, Dr. Doom doesn't just attack the Avengers with a massive army or some giant laser shooting into the sky. He operates in absolute secret. He keeps his unmasked, scarred identity completely hidden, pretending to be this brilliant, friendly ally who is simply trying to help the heroes solve the multiverse crisis. The sheer dread of this narrative lies entirely in the betrayal. By the time the heroes finally realize that the masked villain pulling the strings is the very man standing right next to them in the laboratory, it is far, far too late. The three-way incursion process reaches its final countdown, the sky cracks wide open, and reality collapses. Our fractured, betrayed heroes are left hopelessly trapped in the void, right at Dr. Doom's absolute mercy.
Section 2. The Tragic Adaptation. Subtitle: Time Runs Out and Secret Wars.
What we are dealing with here is a direct, agonizing adaptation of Jonathan Hickman's devastating storyline Time Runs Out and the subsequent Secret Wars event. The cinematic universe is clearly not shying away from the darkness of this storyline, and it's going to be a massive emotional gut punch. Let me slowly and somberly explain the profound horror that awaits these characters, specifically the Fantastic Four, when Doom reshapes reality. When Battleworld is formed, Dr. Doom twists existence itself to eternally punish his enemies. Think about the intense, creeping body horror of this realization. Ben Grimm, the ever-loyal, ever-loving Thing, is completely stripped of all autonomy. He is transfigured into a literal, giant, sentient wall. His eternal punishment is to serve as a physical barrier, forced to eternally separate the most dangerous, zombie-infested regions of this new world. It is a fate of cold, agonizing isolation and the sheer tragedy of unimaginable sacrifice for a man whose warm, beating heart was always his greatest strength.
And guys, the cinematic tragedy absolutely doesn't stop with Ben Grimm. Johnny Storm, the energetic, cocky, and free-spirited Human Torch, is handed a poetic but utterly brutal destiny by Dr. Doom. Johnny's own fiery spirit and his immense ego are weaponized directly against him. He is transformed into a fiery, living sun. He is doomed to streak across the sky of Battleworld in an endless, burning orbit, forced to provide the only light and warmth to a cold, dying, and dystopian planet. Remember that apocalyptic wall of fire we analyzed earlier? The one approaching Johnny while he shielded young Franklin? That isn't just a random explosion. That cinematic visual is the harrowing, agonizing beginning of this very transformation. It is the exact moment his humanity is permanently stripped away to become a celestial body.
But there is an incredibly profound, heartbreakingly beautiful alternative theory about how this cinematic adaptation will actually unfold, and it completely shifts the emotional weight of the entire story. What if Dr. Doom isn't the one who does this to Ben and Johnny? What if it is 5-year-old Franklin Richards? We have to remember that Franklin is an Omega-level reality warper. As the universe is being violently erased, Franklin, in a desperate, panic-stricken act of pure love, uses his godlike powers to save his family the only way a traumatized child's mind knows how. He looks at the uncle who always protected him, his immovable object, and turns him into a literal shield, a wall. And he looks at his bright, energetic flying uncle and turns him into the sun. And this brilliantly illustrates the beautiful, tragic theory that he doesn't do it to punish them. He does this artistic work just to keep them alive, hoping beyond hope that one day they might be saved from the void.
Moving into our next section, the Executive Roadmap. Subtitle: Decoding the Master Plan.
Let's shift our investigation from trailer analysis and comic theory to absolute concrete fact. When we look at recent carefully worded executive interviews, we realize this tragic storyline isn't just wild fan speculation. It is the confirmed trajectory of the franchise. The highest levels of leadership are not hiding their intentions. They are openly stating that Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars run from 10 years ago is the exact blueprint for their cinematic rebirth. When executives confidently say there is a nice roadmap to where we can go, they are acknowledging something absolutely monumental for the film industry. They are admitting that the destruction of their multiverse isn't just a dramatic ending. It is a necessary, highly calculated demolition. They are intentionally tearing down a multi-billion-dollar interconnected cinematic structure to clear the board, simply to make way for a completely new foundation. To understand exactly how they intend to rebuild this cinematic empire, we must understand the specific cosmic tool they will use on screen. The power cosmic. This is not just magic, and it's not just advanced technology. This is an ancient, limitless energy source introduced at the literal dawn of the universe, roughly 14 billion years ago. And here is the absolute cinematic game changer that executives are setting up. Young Franklin Richards has inherited this power. We are talking about a character who can just warp local reality or move a few objects with his mind. This 5-year-old possesses the exact, raw, cosmic tools required to spark universal creation. To put that into perspective, he is sitting in the void as the ultimate architect waiting in the wings, literally holding the power of a big bang in the palm of his small hands.
This immense setup brings us to what I call the Genesis sequence. How does a massive, emotionally draining cinematic saga actually conclude on the big screen? Well, let's walk through it step by step. I can tell you exactly how this plays out. Step 1. God Emperor Doom, the omnipotent ruler of Battleworld, is finally forced to face his fatal psychological flaw, his crippling ego. He is forced to admit that his bitter rival, Reed Richards, would have been a much better god.
Step 2. With Doom's ego totally shattered and his mind broken, the omnipotent power he stole from the Beyonders is visually and dramatically transferred over to Reed. But Step 3 is the true emotional climax. Reed doesn't rebuild the universe alone. Recognizing the heavy burden, he relies on his son. Franklin uses the power cosmic, guided by his father, to meticulously build a brand new singular universe from scratch, planet by planet, star by star.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the distinct pattern that emerges about the studio's broader intentions when analyzing these translated internal memos. The executives are treating this upcoming cinematic era as a definitive bookend. They are explicitly stating a goal to bring storylines to a close. Specifically, they are targeting storylines and legacy characters that started long before the modern interconnected cinematic universe even existed. We're talking about the pre-Iron Man era of heroes. The Secret Wars event is being utilized as a grand, highly emotional mechanism to give these beloved legacy characters a final, dignified bow. Audiences need this profound sense of closure. By honoring the past one last time and closing the book on this legacy, the studio can completely clear the stage, ensuring the audience is totally ready to embrace an unburdened future.
The most revealing statement from the executives is the promise to establish a streamlined, simplified, single universe. This phrasing right here is the ultimate smoking gun. For years, audiences have been suffering from what many of us call multiverse fatigue. We have been forced to navigate this tangled, exhausting web of alternate timelines, endless variants, and branching realities that practically require a spreadsheet just to track. The executives are telling us, point blank, that this convoluted era is coming to a definitive end. Franklin Richards' cosmic redesign will result in a hard, uncompromising reset of the franchise. It will surgically merge the absolute best elements of the past 25 years into one cohesive single timeline. The ultimate goal is a narrative that audiences can easily follow and emotionally invest in without ever needing a multiversal map ever again. And what will be placed at the absolute core of this brand new, streamlined cinematic universe? Mutants. I want to really truly linger on this massive revelation because the implications for movie lovers are just staggering. The future of this franchise is not just about awkwardly sprinkling characters like Wolverine or Deadpool into the existing Avengers roster. No. The executives are planning an entirely restructured, ground-up universe where mutant kind, their politics, their rich culture, and their fight for survival are the absolute beating heart of the story. This isn't just a passing phase or a quick trilogy. It is a multi-stage saga designed to explore the deep, rich, socio-political lore of the X-Men on a scale we have simply never seen before on screen. It is a total and complete changing of the guard.
2042. I want you to just take a second, slow down, and really internalize the sheer scale of that year. During my deep dive into these corporate roadmaps, I uncovered something genuinely unprecedented in modern Hollywood. The current creative planning, the detailed storyboards, the sprawling character arcs mapped out on whiteboards in highly secretive lockdown meeting rooms, it extends an astonishing 15 to 16 years into the future. They are not just greenlighting the next couple of blockbusters and hoping for the best, they are architecting a generational narrative, a continuous cinematic tapestry meant to be watched by fans who might not even be born yet. Let's completely and slowly break down this macro roadmap, because understanding this timeline is absolutely crucial to seeing the grand design in all its unprecedented cinematic scale. In the year 2027, the cinematic landscape completely shifts with Secret Wars, resulting in the total cosmic reset we've been discussing. Then 2028 acts as a necessary transitional era, featuring titles like Black Panther 3 and Shang-Chi 2. Think of this as the epilogue of the old world and the prologue of the new, tying up loose ends and establishing the new ground rules. But it is in 2030 that the true staggering ambition begins. We will witness the launch of a dedicated, decade-long mutant saga. This will be a meticulous, slow-burn adaptation of the greatest X-Men stories ever written, building steadily, year after year, toward a massive franchise-defining grand finale in the year 2042. It is a sprawling, unified epic.
Which brings us to the ultimate, lingering cinematic mystery. Picture the final frame of this entire era, when a 5-year-old Franklin Richards stands in the endless white void, wielding the unimaginable power cosmic to rebuild the universe from the ashes of Battleworld. Who does he actually choose to bring into his new world? Which of our current beloved heroes will survive his cosmic redesign, and who will be tragically left behind in the void forever, their stories permanently ended? It is a haunting, provocative question that will define the very fabric of cinema for the next 2 decades. The board is being reset, the pieces are moving, and we are just waiting to see who survives the purge. Thank you so much for diving into this massive cinematic stringboard with me.